All right, this is Bohdi, and this is Texas, or Tex, and this is the roadmap to success. Yes, you're gonna be a bucking bronco, huh? Now, basically, I was called in, Bohdi here is in our puppy classes, and the guardians are worried about how they get along together. They can play together. They did play together a little bit, but now Tex kind of really just kind of snaps and snarls at Bohdi, and they don't really play together very much. From what I observed is Bohdi is just, and from what I'm seeing him in our puppy classes, he's just a ball of energy. And probably is under-exercised, yes, you. And so basically I showed the guardians some things that they can do to exercise their dogs. He loves chasing the laser, and it's a great fun way to exercise your dog. Throwing the ball up and down the stairs can be another, or just a treat up and down the stairs or whatever it is, get him go up and down the stairs. Scent games is another great way to exercise them. And then the fetch. Now he kind of started fetching, so I'm going to go over how you can teach your dog to fetch in this. Basically what I do is I say the word fetch 3 or 4 times when I throw it. So the first thing I do is I show the dog that I have the ball, and this is the optional one where I say, so we're going to fetch. Then as I throw it, I say the word fetch as I throw it. When the dog picks it up with its mouth, I say the word fetch a second time. And then when it comes over to me, I have a treat, and I wait for the dog to drop it, and I put the treat in their mouth, and I say the word fetch. So this, after a while, this associates the fetch with the command word with all 3 aspects of the fetch. Throwing it, going a retreat, or picking it up, and then giving it back to the human. Now, he did it for a little while, and then he kind of lost interest. And he's a puppy, so he's going to lose a lot of interest. So when he comes up to you and brings you a toy, throw it across the room and say fetch as you throw it. If he picks it up, say fetch, and then you can pet him and say fetch, or preferably give him a treat. And if one of you is doing that, it'd be nice if the other guardian could go up and get some treats and bring it back to him, so the person who's fetching can really ride that wave of momentum. But that's a great way to burn energy. Now, the other thing I wanted to go over, there's a lot of things I want to go over, but we also have some potty training issues. Now, he is a marker, and he's never peed outside, evidently, right?
No, he does pee outside.
Oh, he does pee outside,
Yeah.
Okay. And then he is peeing inside and outside as well. But he has some accidents. And so for potty training, the 3 times your puppy is going to need to go, really a puppy or adult dog, right after waking up, 5 minutes after eating, and 15 minutes after the start of heavy playtime. So if you're doing the laser or whatever for him, look at your clock, and 15 minutes later, make sure you take him outside. Putting the dog in the right place at the right time is a big part of the equation. Part of, I think, also Tex's issues, here, buddy, is he has had some health issues. So he blew out his knee. Nope, you can't do that. You got to say, oh, we just want you to hang out together. That's what we talked about in the other video. But also has an ear issue and some other things. And he also has probably a little separation anxiety. He used to be just him and his guardian, and then he has to share the guardian with her guardian's husband, and now I have to share with this little stinker. And so he's probably a little bit like, man, it used to be just the 2 of us. It was perfect. Why'd you have to ruin it? But it's better, buddy. He doesn't realize this yet. So for potty training, going back to that, so I take him outside those 3 times. I also like to take my dog out about once an hour if I am still potty training them, just so they're in the right place at the right time. Now, don't tell them potty, go make a potty, go potty, buddy, do some business. Just wait. As soon as the dog starts to pee or poop, you want to say the command word. Now, because he is such a little guy, and as small as he is, we have a dog that's about 1/3 of his size in his puppy class. So the pee comes out pretty quickly, and sometimes it's not fast enough. So I actually have a clicker, and I'm not going to click, but what I would do is I would actually take him outside, have treats and a clicker. So go outside and go with him. And remind me of the stairs. I'll come back and explain the stair thing to you as well. But basically go out there into the yard with him and have the treat. Don't let him see you have a treat, and don't let him see you have the clicker. And as soon as he starts to pee or poop, click once. Now, if that stops him from peeing or pooping, then you want to change that and click at the end of the action. So you're watching him, he pees or poops. As soon as he gets done, click, and then crouch down like a catcher. As soon as he comes over to you, pop a treat in his mouth and say the word potty, or whatever the word is you want to use. After a while, the dog starts to associate, and also make sure we don't rub the dog's nose in if they potty inside, or if they potty inside, don't get mad at them, because those 2 things teach the dog not to let us know instead of going hiding and peeing behind the couch where we can't see it. So make sure you don't do either one of those things. So if we take him out on that regular basis and he gets a high value training treat, sometimes what I do the first week is we'll jackpot them. I'll give them a really high, so like the guardians have discovered the high organs like heart, and some of those things are really high value, liver, and dogs, they have the most nutrients, and so animals will typically eat those first. So maybe you pull out those and you take those out, and that's the only time the dog gets those is he potties outside properly. And so sometimes I'll do a jackpot where if they potty, I'll give them like 5 treats in a row the first week. So potty, potty, and make sure you tear those treats in small bits. Sorry, buddy. You just got to stay for a little bit longer. I'll pet you a little bit more. And so the dog gets those high value train treats, and make sure they're small bits so they're chewing about 2 or 3 bites. And so after a while, I was like, what did I just do? I just got 5 pieces of heart? Man, this is the best day ever. What do I have to do to get that again? And so that way we could start recreating that situation. Now, for him, the Guardians, a lot of, they live on we're in the upstairs, and there's a deck, and then there's stairs to go down to the yard. And I saw the Guardian, he went out and actually had to go down the steps because the dogs probably just hang out with you, correct? So to fix that, what you want to do is go outside with them, go all the way down the steps, but stop on the last step. They'll run ahead of you, and they'll just run out, and they'll be in the yard. And just stay right there. And then if you're potty training, you just follow the instructions I already went over. But basically just wait for them to potty. As soon as they start to pee or poop, say potty your business or whatever your word is. And then you can come up the stairs at that point. Next time, you're going to eat my buttons. Go to the second step and then the third step. So each time the dog sees you, go down there, but it's progressively not quite as far. And eventually you get to the point where you just go to the door and open it, and they run downstairs and they do the business. And we've assigned it. Yes, I know. So tough being a Bohdi. And we've assigned that command word and created a motivation for them to want to listen to us because they get that reward. Now for him, the book says if you have a dog that marks, they should not be allowed in the furniture and they should not receive any free pets. One person in this equation is going to have a difficult time with that because it was just her and him. And so they're buddies. But he has a little separation anxiety. Now, in our 301 puppy class, we're going to teach how to teach the dog to stay. I would do this lesson with both dogs. And matter of fact, I would do all the lessons with both dogs. Now, some of them are specific to puppies, but all the stuff we're teaching him, new tricks and commands, make sure you teach him as well. He really only knows sit. What was the other thing he knows? Kisses. But so basically, if we can start building up his self-esteem, by teaching him some new tricks and commands, that really can help him feel more confident and less feeling the need to react. Now, because for the 2 of them, when Bohdi is being a pill, if he comes up and he's being pestering him like this, the Guardians need to interpret that as my way of saying, as Bohdi, I need some more exercise. So we play a little fetch, we do the laser, or do whatever it is, so that Tex sees that, well, I don't have to handle this, and we take care of, we just get him out of a habit of hassling Tex. You want to go all over the place, don't you? I'll let you go. We'll just give Tex all the attention. But if we let him kind of dictate things, and he gets all the, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying right before that? Everybody loses their train of thought. So basically, for them together, if Tex sees that the humans are not interceding when he's being boisterous and pestering me, play with 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 me. Finally, he's going to go after him, he's done that a couple times. Not been a fight, but I think he's like, look, you're not listening. And I don't really care what your needs are. I need to do whatever I want to do myself. So I think in this case, really upping his exercise, boosting their self-esteem through passive training and petting with a purpose, and then interceding when Bohdi starts getting too boisterous so that he doesn't have to, is going to be the name of the game. Now, when they are relaxed, like after puppy classes, when Bohdi is all relaxed, it'd be a nice time to have them on the floor. I wouldn't do it you could do it on the couch too, but it's also going to motivate Bohdi to want to come up on the couch. So what I would do is go down to the floor, go down the floor with him, kind of hang out with him, and then basically have Bohdi over here and hold him kind of like this. So you have like your thigh and one dog here or one dog here. So there's a little bit of separation, but eventually it'd be nice to put the dog here so they can practice being together. Like I mentioned in the video above, they just need some shared experiences. I had a dog that I used to kind of force to do this because he just had really low self-esteem, and he would try to get up and I'm like, no, and he would slink back down, and you're like, how long do I have to stay here? And he would forget that he's doing it, and he would fall asleep. Then he woke up hanging around with the other dogs. And after a while, enough practice of that makes him feel more comfortable. Now he goes and lays with the other dogs. These guys don't really do a lot of interactions together, and so I think that's part of the reason what's going on. Now, there are different life stages, but when Bohdi is nice and relaxed, that's a wonderful time to have them try to lay and sit together. Yes, you went all the way underneath the couch, didn't you? And look for other ways, things that you can do. The paratreating is great. Giving them bully sticks at the same time is great. Sometimes you might tether the dogs so they can't reach each other. So they're in the room together, but they can't get to each other, so they have to worry about stealing each other's treats or whatever it is. Now, I'd like to see the guardians practice petting with a purpose and passive training with both dogs. So petting with a purpose is making sure the dog, Bohdi, sit, sit. That's petting with a purpose. I asked him to do something first. I rewarded him when he did it. If he wouldn't have sat, I would have just leaned back and not petted him. Ask only once. Now, passive training is just waiting for the dog to voluntarily do something on their own. So stand, I could have said, or lap. Now he just wants to get away. He wants to go to his mom, which is behind the camera. So you're gonna have to stay here for a little bit longer, Tex. Let's make it a little bit easier. But basically, the more that we, yeah, there we go. See, it's not so bad to hang out here, is it? No. But the more that we build in some of these positive experiences, the more the dogs are going to feel good about being around one another. And eventually, Bohdi is going to lose a little bit of all this extra puppy energy he has, and then they might become true buddies, unless the only interaction he has is telling me, leave me alone, you've pestered me for too long. So for petting with a purpose will also really help with him and his marking. Because right now I asked his guardian what he could do to make her happy. Just snuggle with me. Well, I'm sure he snuggles great, but that's not really asking him to do very much. The bar is not set very high. So making him sit or lay down or do things to earn his affection will boost his self-esteem. It will increase his respect for his guardian and also help him practice sitting and some of those other things, which he doesn't have a lot of skills. So once he knows how to, he already knows how to sit, so start working on crouch or working on flop, which is for me when the dog lays on its side. And so after a while, the dog has more and more skills. We have more ways to redirect them, and the dog's boost of self-esteem and confidence makes them less anxious or insecure about other little things that they might normally react to. Hey, buddy. Kisses. That's passive training. Now, I also talked about rules and structure. Really, there's a lot of rules for Bohdi, they explained, and no rules for Texas. And so that can create a problem where, why should I listen to you? I don't see you acting like a leader. You're not enforcing rules consistently. So some of the rules I usually suggest is not let those on the furniture. In this case, we're going to let Tex own the furniture because it gives him a reprieve from Bohdi. We'd also like the dogs not, Tex will be right next to his guardian when she's eating. He'll take food out of her hand if he can. He should not be within 7 feet of anyone who's eating. He should also not be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. I go to the door, I say sit once. If he doesn't sit, walk away, wait 1 minute, then go back and tell him sit again. If he sits this time, I open the door as soon as he sits. If he doesn't, then I walk away and wait 2 minutes. Next time I'll wait 4 minutes. So you're going to double length the time. 1 minute, 2 minute, 4 minute, 8 minutes, so on. And eventually when you say sit, that butt hits the ground, then you open the door. Or if you go to the door and I say sit, and let's say that Tex sits and that Bohdi doesn't, I would open the door and let Tex out and not let Bohdi out. I'd also recommend the guardians go to a structured feeding scenario, which means that the dogs are going to be fed in order and in the same area. But when one dog's eating, the other dog's not with me at 7 feet. So the open floor plan here makes it a little bit more challenging. So I've seen people do it like in a corner. There wouldn't be a bad place. But the idea is we want them to leave the bowls down, and when we put the food in both bowls. The human who's feeding first is going to eat something in 5 more bites. Then we're going to invite him to come over when Tex is eating. Maybe we call his barbecue for Texas barbecue. So every time he eats, we say barbecue for about 3 months. After 3 months, we say barbecue. He's like, barbecue means I get to go eat, and he'll run over there and get it. The guardian's practicing a little fetch right now, which is awesome. So again, that's a wonderful way to do that. So hold your hand like this, like you have it. Oh, there you go. One thing we want to make sure we don't do is physically take the ball away from the dog. So what we want to do is we want to instead have the dog, there's some treats in there, hold the treat out in front of his nose, and as soon as he drops it, pop the treat in his mouth, like I said earlier, and say the word fetch, and then give him, pick up the ball and then throw it. So this way the dog will come over and just drop the ball like he just did off camera, and then the guardian can go ahead and there you go, fetch. And then if he doesn't drop the ball or doesn't bring it to you, then don't ask him to do it. We play the game when you do what he wants. Now right there, the guardian threw the ball and he knows that she has a treat. So I'm gonna have her sit back on the chair and sit back and lean back and ignore him. If he's gonna jump up, don't say a word, don't correct him, nada. And so otherwise he's like, but I want the treat that you have in your hand and you're gonna give it to me. No, we're not. And the only thing that's going to get you the treat is going and getting the ball. He doesn't realize this. At this point, the ball is out of his deal, so out of his memory. So don't like show him you have a bunch of treats. And if the treats interrupt the fetch, then maybe just pet him a little bit after he brings you the ball. Pet him, and then hold up your hand like this, and he drops it. pet him a little bit more, then pick it up and throw it. The idea is to teach him how to drop. And to teach a dog to drop, we have a basket full of toys here. One thing I'm not wild about the basket full of toys is it's so tall the dogs can't actually get the toys out themselves. I don't know if that's intentional. If it's not, then you want to get a basket that is low enough where they can retrieve all the toys out of it themselves. So basically, there we go. So he knows that she has a treat. Some dogs, the treat will just ruin it. Now, so you might also get a different treat that doesn't have the high smell, that's not as good as these treats, but it's still a treat. These are really, really high value training treats. So we might find another treat that's desirable, but not just going to interrupt the flow, because that's what right now he's just like, I don't care about the ball anymore, I just want the treat in your hand. So if that's the case, maybe we just go to petting him. But ride that wave whenever you possibly can. Enforcing the rules consistently is going to help him see the humans acting like a leader. And also, if he's eating and the humans are keeping the other dog away, they see that they're being fair and keeping the other dog away. And I don't have to do this myself. I don't have to growl at Bohdi. I can just count on my humans to take care of the situation. So I'd like you to go through and follow. He brought it back and he's a little bit lazy. He dropped the object before. So make sure, in that case, I'd make sure he brings it all the way back too, but that's kind of a personal preference. So the lessons that we're going over in our puppy classes, I would do all the teaching lessons for him. So your dogs can both do all the same commands. Now, most of the time I use the same command word, except for a release. I also use a different command word for eating their food. So that way I can say, maybe his word is barbecue and Bohdi's word is tofu, because it's California, man. And so basically when he hears tofu, he's eating a food, and I can command the dogs to eat or release them from their stay independently. If both dogs have a release command, say release, and I didn't want him to release, I'm kind of SOL. So go through all the tricks and commands we're teaching in class and teach both dogs. And there's two people in the house. So one of you takes one of them, goes downstairs and works with him. You work with him. And then after both you spend about 2 minutes doing it, then swap. Go down there and play, and then the new person goes in and we play a little bit, and then or maybe better yet, train them for like a minute and a half to 2 minutes or whatever the lesson is, then play with them for like a minute or two, then swap humans. So then you come upstairs and you go downstairs, and then the dog practices doing it with somebody else, and then they get a little playtime from you afterwards. So you do your work, and then you get a reward afterwards, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else we want to go over? Oh, I did forget one other thing that I didn't go through, so I'm going to go through it here since we didn't do it live, so you actually have it here. I have 4 ways of disagreeing with dogs. I'm going to only go over 3 of them here with you guys. The first one I do is I make a hissing sound like a cat. If you want to watch Tex here. The reason I use that is because that's the response you get. Cats, skunks, snakes, cougars, mountain lions, scorpions, bunny rabbits, all these animals make a hissing sound as a warning. So it's programmed in their DNA. So before they do the wrong thing, hiss. Now be careful when you do have 2 dogs together. If let's say that a Bohdi is approaching and Tex is hanging out here and Bohdi approaches, we mean to hiss at Bohdi, Tex might think we hissed at him. So we might go to the second consequence. I'm going to talk about in a second if that's the case. But the first one is I hiss 1 time per incident. And I translate my hiss as sit. No, don't do that. Or most effectively, don't even think about doing that. So if Bohdi's coming here, you might hiss at him when he's a couple feet away, if he's coming to hassle Tex. So that's the first consequence. Hiss 1 time per incident and match the intensity of your hiss with the dog's energy level. If Bohdi's at level 9 energy and we hiss at 2, he won't hear it. If he hears it, he won't respect it. So meet or exceed his energy level. Second consequence is to stand up abruptly. When dogs are communicating with each other, before I get to that, for dogs, standing up is your commanding position. It's your business. And for dogs, burning energy is like a form of currency. So if you're not willing to stand up, it doesn't really mean that you are that serious about it. Now, when you stand up, your authority goes whatever direction your belly button is pointing. So when you stand up, turn so you're facing and your hips are squared to that dog. Usually the dog will take a big step backwards and say, what are you doing, man? Why don't you get all serious? Then they'll walk to the side. And they do that because they're trying to qualify, are you talking to me or did you just stand up really quickly? So our authority goes whatever direction our belly button points. So if I stand up and the dog is here and the dog goes over here and I keep on facing here, he literally walks away from my authority. So if I stand up, the dog's here and the dog walks over here, I pivot and keep my belly button pointed towards him no matter where he goes. And I keep doing this until he tells me he's done challenging me. And he will tell you that by stopping moving. He'll stand, sit, or lie down. When he does one of those 3 things, sit. Very good. We take a step backwards, and take a step backwards with 1 step with each foot. A lot of people take several steps back. The reason it's important you take only 2 steps back is when dogs communicate with each other through movement, they do it through a singular, bold, overdramatic movement followed by a stoppage of movement. So if you take a whole bunch of little steps, the dog thinks that you're confused. So if you just take left, right, and stop, there's like, ooh, they're talking to me, and we're winding it down, but they were talking to me. They weren't just stung in the butt by a bee. So basically, the second consequence, stand up abruptly, turn to face your dog, keep the dog in front of you until it stops moving. Stand, sits, or lies down. Take 2 steps backwards and only 2 steps. Pause for 1 second, then go back to doing what you're doing. However, if what you were doing is doing what I'm doing right now and sitting down, when you sit down, you lose some perceived authority. So if you sit down, I'm sitting deeply in the couch, I prefer you sit on the edge of the couch because the dog's probably going to challenge you again. You're going to have to bounce back up. And you would repeat that step. So that's the second consequence. Stand up abruptly, turn to face the dog, keep it in front of you till it stops moving, take 2 steps backwards, and pause for 1 second. The third consequence involves giving and taking territory. For dogs, front-facing is confrontational, sideways is approachable. So if you ever meet another dog, you want to do it in a polite way, take a rounded sideways approach. That's very healthy for dogs. Face-to-face, running straight up to another dog often results in a fight. So basically what I want to do in this case, though, is I do want to disagree with the dog, so they're doing something I don't want. So I march deliberately at the dog. When I say march, I don't mean stomp your feet. I mean moving pretty briskly. You want to give the dog like a flinching experience. So if the dog moves there, you go to where the dog is. Don't walk in the same line. So walk towards the dog until the dog tells you it's done challenging you. And I'm going to use you as a pantomime. So if you're walking towards the dog and he backs up a mile, but he's still facing you, he's still challenging you because he's still orientated towards you. So when he wants to tell you he understands, he's going to do this. He's going to turn sideways to you or greater. As soon as the dog turns sideways, I'm sorry, Tex, then you're going to basically stop in place. Now, it's important you stop immediately. At that, you stop at that as soon as the dog turns sideways, and then if the dog moves around, you keep it in front of your hips. So the second one, you kind of transitions you, the third one transitions you back to the second one. Yes, I know, you're going to play with your mommy here in a sec. So the third consequence is to march deliberately at the dog until it turns sideways away from you. At that point, you stop and you go to the second consequence. Now I'm pivoting, you're in the room, you stop moving, I take those 2 steps backwards. The only time this doesn't apply is if the dog's breaking a boundary. Let's say that the rule is, excuse me, Tex, is that there's a line right here. Let's say the dog's supposed to be on that side of the line. Well, the dog crosses the threshold and I march deliberately at it and it turns sideways here, but it's still supposed to be on that side of this line. I would ignore the fact that it turned sideways and march deliberately into it. Well, not deliberately, but march right at it. And if it's still there, I would bump into it. And I keep marching at the dog until it crosses the line. This is how you enforce an invisible boundary. So as soon as the dog crosses the boundary, you stop. And then if the dog tries to go around you, take a step to the side, but you don't let it go around you. And as soon as the dog sits or stops moving, you take a step backwards, left foot, right foot, pause. So you'll practice this several times. So try to practice this when you're pretend cooking in the kitchen, or one of you's eating a snack, or one of the dogs has a ball or something, or a bone or something like that. But teaching them how to respect boundaries can be really helpful. Also helping them practice respecting you as an authority figure can also be very beneficial. All right, well, this is Tex. Bohdi, come. This little ball of fur is Bohdi. Yes, Tex didn't like that very much. But this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog or dogs, only this time, only sometimes you mean it.